I want you to think about the person sitting across from you right now, or the person who sat across from you at dinner last night, or the one who shares your bed, or the one whose coffee order you know by heart because you have been getting it for them for years. Now I want you to ask yourself one question. Do you really know them? Not the version they present. Not the carefully edited highlight reel of a person that relationships are sometimes built on, but the actual, complete, unedited version. The one that exists in the parts of their life you have never been shown. My husband thought he knew me. He knew my coffee order. He knew I preferred the window seat. He knew I cried at certain movies and laughed too loudly at others. He knew the way I organized a kitchen in the particular way I folded towels and the fact that I always read for exactly 20 minutes before I could fall asleep. He knew the surface of me with the confidence of a man who had never thought to look deeper. He had absolutely no idea what was underneath. My name is Sarah. I was 38 years old, and for 11 years, 6 of them married to a man named Marcus. I had been living 2 lives with the particular discipline of someone trained to do exactly that. My official title, the one on documents Marcus had never seen, in an office he had never visited, doing work I had never described in any specific detail. He was Special Agent, Federal Bureau of Investigation, 11 years of service, a record that, if Marcus had ever thought to look for it, he would not have found, because some records are not findable by people without clearance. Marcus knew I worked for the government. He knew it was something in finance. Compliance, I had told him early on. The kind of vague but plausible cover that requires no elaboration because it sounds exactly boring enough to be true. He had never asked more than that. I had never offered more than that. Not because I was hiding from him, or not only because of that, but because the work I did required a discipline of separation that became, over 11 years, as natural as breathing. You learn to keep things in their compartments. You learn that the version of yourself that exists in one room does not follow you into another. What I had not anticipated, what my training had not fully prepared me for, was the particular pain of discovering that the person you had chosen to build a life with had been running his own operation, in the compartments you had trusted him to keep. The discovery came on a Tuesday morning in March. Not through any professional means, not through surveillance or intelligence or any of the tools available to someone with my clearance and my experience. It came through a credit card statement, left on the kitchen counter, face up, because Marcus, who had grown comfortable, who had stopped being careful in the way that people stop being careful, when they believe they are the smartest person in any room, had simply forgotten to put it away. I looked at it for approximately 4 seconds. 4 seconds was enough. If you are already leaning forward, stay with me. Subscribe to this channel right now, because what I did with that credit card statement and what Marcus discovered about the woman he thought he knew is something I have never told anyone the complete version of until today. I folded the statement, put it in my pocket, finished my coffee, and went to work. Let me tell you what 11 years of federal service teaches you about deception. It teaches you that most people are not as clever as they believe themselves to be. It teaches you that the details people think are invisible are usually the loudest things in a room, to anyone trained to listen. It teaches you that the most dangerous moment in any operation is when the person running it starts to feel safe. Marcus had started to feel safe. The credit card statement showed charges over 14 months, a hotel and the same one in a city 2 hours away, on the 3rd weekend of every month with the regularity of someone who had stopped varying their pattern because varying your pattern requires effort, and effort requires not being comfortable. A jewelry store, 3 purchases over 8 months, nothing I had ever received. A restaurant, our anniversary restaurant, which I had always believed was ours, booked 4 times in the past year on dates that were not our anniversary. 14 months of a parallel life, documented on a piece of paper left face up on a kitchen counter. I spent that day at work doing what I do. I will not describe it specifically. There are things that belong to the work and things that belong to this story, and I've spent 11 years keeping those categories clean. What I will tell you is that I sat at my desk and I was completely functional and completely focused. And underneath both of those things, I was doing something else entirely. I was building the case, not with bureau resources. I want to be very clear about that. What Marcus had done was not a federal matter. It was a personal one. And I have always understood the difference between those two categories, even when the person who had wronged me was someone I had shared a bed with for 6 years. I used what I knew, publicly available information, financial records I was entitled to access as his spouse, the particular skill set of someone who has spent 11 years learning how people hide things, applied, quietly and completely, to the question of what my husband had been hiding and for how long. What I found over the following 3 weeks was comprehensive. Her name was Lauren. She was 34. She worked in marketing. She was, by all available evidence, completely unaware that the man she had been seeing for 14 months was married. That detail, her unawareness, was the one that settled something in me. Not about her, about him, about the particular kind of man who manages 2 lives by making sure neither side knows about the other. I documented everything, organized it with the precision of someone who has prepared case files that have been presented in federal court. Every date, every charge, every verifiable fact. And then I waited. Not for long. Patience is a professional skill I have developed over 11 years. But it has its limits. Not so long that thoroughness became avoidance. On the 22nd day, Marcus came home from work and found me sitting at the kitchen table. The folder was in front of me. He saw it immediately. I watched his eyes go to it, the automatic assessment of someone who recognizes, before they can stop themselves, that they are looking at something significant. "Rough day?" he said, casually, the casual of someone buying time. "Sit down, Marcus," I said. He sat. I opened the folder. I turned it so it faced him. I let him look. He looked for a long time. "Sarah, I want you to understand something before you speak," I said. "Everything in that folder is documented, verified, and organized. There is nothing in it that can be explained away, minimized, or reframed. I know this because documentation, verification, and organization are things I do professionally." He looked up from the folder, and for the first time, possibly the first time in 6 years, he looked at me as if he was seeing something he hadn't seen before. "What do you mean professionally?" he said. I said, that the compliance work I told you I did for the government was a simplification. What I actually do is considerably more specific, and considerably more relevant to this conversation than you might have assumed." The color left his face slowly, then all at once. What Marcus had assumed, and for 11 years, throughout our entire relationship, was that he was the more capable one. Not cruelly, not consciously perhaps, but in the quiet, background way that some people carry assumptions about the people. They are with a low-level certainty that they are the one who navigates the world more effectively, who understands things more completely, who would, if it came to it, be better at the game. He had been wrong about that for 11 years. I told him, calmly, completely, without drama, what I did for a living. Not classified details, not anything that compromised the work. Just enough for him to understand that the woman he had decided to deceive was not the woman he had believed. He was deceiving. He was quiet for a very long time. "How long have you known?" he said finally. "About Lauren? 3 weeks." I paused. "About the pattern of how you operate? Longer." He closed his eyes. I slid the folder across the table. "My lawyer's number is on the last page," I said. "I'd like you to call yours today." What followed was, by the standards of divorce proceedings, remarkably efficient. Marcus did not contest. I believe, having had some time to consider the situation, that he understood contesting would require him to sit across a table from someone with my professional background and argue about documentation, That is not a position most people choose voluntarily. The settlement reflected 11 years accurately, not dramatically. I was not interested in punishment for its own sake. Accurately, the way things look when all the information is on the table and no one is hiding anything. Lauren, I learned later through channels I will not specify, had ended things with Marcus immediately upon learning he was married. She had called him. I know this because certain things have a way of becoming known, and said 4 words. You should have told me. She was right. He should have told a lot of people a lot of things. That is perhaps the summary of the entire situation. I moved into a new apartment in April. Clean lines, good security, professional habit, plants on the windowsill, because even people in my line of work like plants. The work continues. It always continues. I sit at my desk and I do what I have always done. Document, verify, organize, and I carry this story in the same compartment where I carry everything that is mine and nobody else's. Except today. Today I am putting it down. Here is what 11 years of federal service and 1 credit card statement and a folder on a kitchen table taught me. The most dangerous assumption you can make about another person is that you know everything about them. People are not files. They are not the version of themselves they have chosen to present. And sometimes, not often, but sometimes, the person you have underestimated most completely is the one sitting right across from you. My husband didn't know I was a federal agent. The day he tried to cheat me was his biggest mistake. Not because of what I did to him, because of what he discovered, sitting at his own kitchen table, looking at a folder he could not argue with, about who he had been underestimating for 11 years. If this story reached you, if it opened something, please share it right now with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to this channel. Every week I bring you stories about the people who were underestimated, and what happened when they finally showed their hand. I am always listening,